In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the switch statement in open processing. First thing you're going to do, just like every project, create a new project and save it. I'm going to call this one switch. Alright, so the purpose of a switch statement is it's basically a little bit like a longer if statement, and it can test against a bunch of different things. And we're going to be working in this main area, and I'm just going to get rid of that ellipse, we don't need it. So we're going to get straight into it and create our switch statement. Alright, let's have a little look. Switch. This is how we set up our switch statement. Okay, nice and simple. Now we're getting a lot of errors because I haven't finished the switch statement. The switch statement takes in an argument. It can be or a variable. It takes in a variable, and we basically going to use this variable to check it against different cases. So switching case statements is how we go about doing this. And in this case, I'm going to do numbers as my cases. Alright, so that's how we write a case statement. We have our case, we have the number in this case. If we wanted to do a word or something like that, that's fine. But in this case, we're checking to see if our variable is the same as a number. Now, still not liking us, so we're going to create a variable at the top here. Let's go with mode equal to 0. And we're going to put mode in here. Alright. Cool. What have I done wrong here? Have a look. It wants 1. There we go. Got it the wrong way around. There we go. Alright, so what have I done? I've got a variable at the top here, which is a number variable, which I'm assigning to 0. I've created a switch. Switch contains that variable. And based on that variable, we look at the different cases we're going to create. This is how we create a case. So we put case, the variable number that we want it to be. So in this case, it's 1, colon, not a semicolon, colon, open bracket, close bracket, and we put break. And I'll explain what break does in a minute. So we can have a bunch of cases. Maybe 2, 3. Now I'm doing them in order, but they don't actually have to be in order. Now I might want a case, might do one more, and it might be case 265. Beautiful. I can have any number as one of my variables that I'm searching for. Ooh, did not spell very well there. Cool. Alright, so you can see cases can get very long very quickly. So we've still got our variable 0. Going to be checking, so that's our variable mode. We could call it whatever we want. Maybe screen might be a better name for it, and then we'll write screen in here. Maybe screens, so screen 1, screen 2, screen 3, or main menu, option, something else, level select, pause, that sort of stuff. So we have got 0 as our number, as our variable. We've got these cases. We've got case 1, case 2, case 3, and case 265. Do any of those cases match? 0 does not match 1, no. 2, no, that doesn't match. 0 and 3, no. 0 and 265, no, it doesn't match. So when we run this, nothing's going to happen. It should run at this stage if you got all your brackets correct and got all your indices and all that sort of correct. But at the moment, nothing happens. Alright, so in each of these cases, I'm going to do something different. In the first case, I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to put some random numbers in here. Alright. our second case, we're doing it inside the brackets. We're going to make an ellipse. We're going to again put some random numbers in here. Our third case, I'll do a triangle. Running out of things to do. Just remember triangles taking 6 arguments. Trying to make my triangle look good, but I think I've stuffed up somewhere. Go 300. Hopefully that makes a triangle. And in our last case, we'll go with text. Text that says hello world, because that's classic. Alright, so each of the cases does something different now. We've got a rectangle in the first one, an ellipse in the second one, triangle in the third one, and hello world in the last one. Now, we will be adding one more in a minute. When we run this, it should still come up with a blank screen. Correct. Alright, so I'm going to save my work because you probably haven't saved in a while either. So our screen's set to 0. None of the cases match. So that bit of code won't run, none of that will run, none of that one, or none of that one will run. Now, if I change my number here to 1, hopefully we all know what's going to run, which case is going to run. Case 1 is going to run because it's a 1. 1, 1, they're the same. Well, we get a square. That's good. Perfect. If I change it to a 2 and run it, we get a circle. If I change it to a 3, run it, I get a triangle. Yeah, it's okay, triangle. If I change it to 4, 4 doesn't exist again, so it doesn't run. And if I change it to 265, get hello world, because that one will work. Awesome. All right, actually, what I'm just going to check in here is a background. I just want to make sure that we're clearing the screen. So just remember that clears the screen every single cycle. This background up here just sets up once. So we need to make sure we got a background down here. Don't even need that one there. Get rid of it. Hello world. All right, so we set it back to 0. Just get it to nothing. So there's nothing popping up. So what we can actually make is a default case. We can have something in the default case, and so let's have some text in here that is default to undefined case not found. That way you know if you somehow get this coming up on your screen, you've made a mistake and your case statement is hitting the default. Undefined, default case not found. Perfect. All right, because why is that coming up? Because 0 is not one of your cases. None of your cases that match that, so it just goes to default. So if I had 4 or 27 or something that's not one of my cases, it will default and display that text. So this is really useful. As you can see, depending on the case, only the code inside the case runs, and then it breaks out of this switch statement. So that's what all these breaks are doing. So if we've got it set to 1, it will go through and go, screen's equal to 1. We'll test that against case 1. Oh, the first one is 1. 1 is the same as 1. We'll run this bit of code, and then we'll break out, and we won't even have to check any of the other ones. We don't need to. We don't want to. We'll just skip all this and go down to the bottom here, and then we start again because we run out of code. If I go case 3, say, it will go screen is equal to 3. Case 1 is 1. No, 3 and 1, they don't match. 3 and 2, they don't match. 3 and 3, oh, they match. I'm going to draw a triangle, and then I'm going to break away. I'm going to break out, and I won't run any other code. So that's why we have those breaks in there. So that's why we have to break it. If you don't put the break in, then it might crash code. You might get some weird errors occurring. All right, save your work. Make sure you're saving all the time. That's the basics of a switch statement. Now, we don't have to put numbers in here necessarily. Our case doesn't have to accept numbers. We could change our variable to accept. That's how we write text. We have quotation marks, our text that we want it to be, and then our closing quotation marks. Now, if I run this, nothing matches that. So we'll get our undefined case not found. But each of these, I could assign a word. You got to make sure you got your brackets correctly done, and you got to make sure if you're going to make that a lowercase, you got to make sure that's a lowercase. It is case sensitive, so you got to watch out for that. This might be pause, and this last one might be test. All right. So now if we run this, we've got menu as our variable, the value of our variable. Still called screen, but the variable contains the word, the actual string menu. And we go through and we go, oh, which case has menu as a string? That one does, so we should get a square. Good. If I change this to say pause, pause is written here. Oh, there's a case for pause. Should create a triangle. So this is a pretty quick tutorial. We're going to leave it at that. We will be using this in the next tutorial along with our buttons to make buttons. But this was just learning how to use a switch statement. Because obviously in our code here, we define screen at the top, we assign it, but we never change it anywhere else. And we're going to use that later on to make buttons change this variable. And that's what we'll be doing next. So that's it for this tutorial.